When you're conducting a large-scale meta-analysis or systematic review, you usually start with thousands of articles, and you have to screen them to find the ones that are actually relevant to your project. As we said, not having to go through the full text of all of these articles is a huge time saver. But still, you have to look at the title and abstract of thousands of articles. No matter how many people you have in your team, this is still a huge and time consuming task. In the traditional guidelines of doing systematic reviews, especially the ones promoted by Prisma, there is no way around it. You have to actually review the title and abstract of all the articles you have in your database. But is there a better way of doing this? More recent guidelines, however, suggest you can use machine learning and artificial intelligence to make this process a little bit more intelligent. And in this way, you might be able to save a lot of time. We have implemented some artificial intelligence enabled features in the screening process in HubMeta, which can save you a lot of time. Let's see how they work. So in my project, when I go to title screening, as you remember, I can go ahead and submit my votes here if I believe this article should be included or should not be included in this project. What happens after I have submitted a few votes is that I can now ask HubMeta to learn from the decisions I have made so far and basically rank all the remaining articles based on its guess of relevance or irrelevance to my project. In other words, HubMeta will read the decisions I have made so far and sort all the remaining papers based on their similarity to the yes votes that I have submitted as the reviewer. So if I turn this AI assistant on, and note that this might take some time to sort, especially the first time you turn it on. What I see is that the order of these papers has changed. And the way it works is that these articles that are now sorted closer to the top have a higher probability of being included in this paper. Remember that this is not perfect science, so it's still a probability. It is merely suggesting that the probability of us giving a yes vote to the ones that have ranked higher is higher. Now, how does it help in saving time for me in the reviewing process? Well, obviously, the more votes I submit, the better would be the learning capability of our AI assistant, and of course, the better would be the ranking of the remaining articles. So what happens is that after a certain point, so the more I go forward in my project, the probability of articles being included in the project becomes less and less and less until we come to a point where we see that we are rejecting practically every single article we see. So in your review project, if you keep submitting no votes to articles, you will see that up top, there is this counter which says how many articles you have rejected in a row. And this helps in determining if it's time to stop looking at articles now. So usually what happens in the project is that if you saw that you have rejected, let's say, the last 200 papers that you have looked at, it might suggest that there is not much left to look at in the remainder of the database. So all the ones that could have had any relevance to your project had been sorted up and you have already looked at them and made your decision about them. And whatever remains at the bottom of the list are the ones that are practically irrelevant to your project. One thing to remember is that every time you turn off this AI assistant and turn it on again, HubMeta will start learning again based on the new decisions that you have submitted. And even if you don't turn this off and on, every time you go to the next page in reviewing your articles, HubMeta will automatically add all the decisions you have made in this page to its learning and relearns and resort all the articles again. All of this, of course, in case the AI assistant is turned on. Now that we looked at the AI assistant for the reviewer of the project, let's see how it looks for the researcher. In the researcher panel, it works pretty much the same way, except this time it learns based on the decisions I have made as the researcher. Remember, the learning set for the reviewer, and in fact for every single reviewer and the researcher of the project, are different. So in other words, the decisions made by the reviewer or by the researcher or by other reviewers in the project cannot bias the other person who is looking at these articles. So in the researcher panel, very similar, you just turn this on after you have submitted a few decisions, and HubMeta learns based on the decisions you have submitted and rank orders the articles according to relevance. One thing that is different in the researcher panel is that we have this column which is called AI comment. This is actually a probability that is measured based on the similarity assessment algorithm that is used for this AI assistant. So here it suggests that the probability of inclusion of this article is equals to this probability. And as you can guess, the more I go forward in my project, this probability becomes lower and lower. To use the example of a real project, as you can see, in this case, my reviewers have looked at only half of the articles that I had in my title and abstract screening, because what happened is that using this AI assistant, after a certain point, they saw that they are practically rejecting all the remaining articles. And it is very, very unlikely to find anything relevant in the bottom half of the papers. Be careful that I'm not suggesting that this 50% is a good stopping point. We've had examples of a project where the keyword search was very vague, and so a lot of irrelevant articles were included in the search. And in those cases, you could practically stop at 10% or 20% of articles. In other cases where your keyword search was really good, you couldn't even stop after 70%. But still, using AI assistant significantly reduces the amount of time you spend on screening your articles. One concluding point is that we also have the AI assistant in full text screening. It works with practically the same logic and just does the learning based on decisions you submit in full text screening. Finally, you have in the settings of your project under general these two aspects of the AI assistant. So this is the feature extraction model where you have a few options, FIDF and Doc2Vec. And for the classifier model, you have naive-based, SVM, logistic regression, and RF. If you were interested in more details about the technical aspects of our AI assistant, make sure you write to us.